The year is 1462, a moonless night on the banks of the Danube River. Two armies face each other across the water, one flying the blood-red banners of Wallachia, the other bearing the crescent of the Ottoman Empire. But this isn't just another border war. The commander of the Ottoman force is a prince who speaks perfect Romanian, who knows every secret path through the Carpathian forests, who understands exactly how his enemy thinks, because his enemy is his brother. Vlad the Impaler stands on the northern bank, his hands still stained with the blood of 20,000 impaled Turks. Radu the Handsome commands from the south, leading an army of 120,000 men to destroy everything his brother has built. Between them flows the dark water, and beneath it flows something darker still, a hatred born in childhood captivity, nurtured in the perfumed chambers of the Ottoman court, and now unleashed in a war where only one brother can survive. How does a man become the weapon used to destroy his own blood? To understand the monster history forgot, you need to understand the nightmare that created him. The year is 1436. Two boys are dragged from their beds in the middle of the night, Vlad, age 5, and Radu, barely 4 years old. Their father, Vlad II Dracul, ruler of Wallachia, has made a deal with Sultan Murad II, a deal written in the flesh of his own children. They will be taken to the Ottoman capital of Adrianople as hostages, insurance that their father will remain loyal to the Sultan's interests. If Dracul betrays the Sultan, his sons will be executed. If he remains obedient, they will be educated in the finest court in the world. The journey from Targovist to Adrianople takes 17 days. 17 days for two small boys to watch their homeland disappear behind them. 17 days to understand that they are now possessions of the empire that their ancestors spent centuries fighting. When they arrive at the palace complex, they are separated from their Romanian guards and led into a world of marble corridors, silk curtains, and cold calculation. The Ottoman system of hostage princes is precise and brutal. You take the sons of vassals and enemies alike. You strip away their language, their religion, their identity. You rebuild them as perfect Ottoman servants. Some break, some die. Some become janissaries, Christian boys converted to Islam and trained as the empire's elite killing force. And some, the clever ones, learn to play the game so well they become indispensable. Vlad and Radu respond to captivity in opposite ways. Vlad resists. He fights his tutors. He refuses to learn Turkish properly. He sneers at Ottoman customs and spits at the mention of Islam. The palace instructors beat him regularly. They lock him in windowless cells. They threaten him with impalement, with flaying, with being fed to dogs. Nothing works. The boy's hatred only grows harder, denser, like a stone being compressed into diamond. Radu does something far more dangerous. He adapts. Where Vlad is dark and brooding, Radu is luminous. Where Vlad builds walls, Radu builds bridges. He learns Turkish faster than any other hostage prince. He studies Persian poetry. He masters horseback archery. He converts to Islam, not violently, not with fanfare, but quietly, pragmatically, understanding that this single act opens doors that will remain forever closed to his stubborn brother. By age 12, Radu speaks 5 languages fluently. By 14, he can debate theology with court scholars and outride the Sultan's own cavalry instructors. And he is beautiful, devastatingly, politically, dangerously beautiful. Before diving into this forgotten story of brotherhood and betrayal, if you enjoy learning about the hidden truths of history that textbooks ignore, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content like this. And please comment below to let me know where you're listening from. I find it incredible that we're exploring these dark chapters together from different parts of the world, connected across time and space by our shared fascination with the monsters history tried to erase. The Ottoman court in the 1440s is a viper's nest of sexual politics. Grand viziers and generals compete for the Sultan's favor through gifts, through military victories, through political marriages. But there is another currency in this world, beauty and companionship. The Sultan's inner circle includes his official wives, his concubines, and his favorites. Some of these favorites are women, some are not. When Mehmed II becomes Sultan in 1451 at age 19, Radu is 20 years old. They have known each other since childhood, two princes trapped in a palace, both brilliant, both ambitious, both shaped by the same brutal system. Mehmed is calculating and ruthless, already planning the conquest of Constantinople. Radu is polished and magnetic, fluent in the languages of power. What happens between them becomes one of history's most whispered scandals. Byzantine chroniclers hint at it, Romanian sources rage against it, Ottoman records stay conspicuously silent, but the circumstantial evidence is overwhelming. Radu rises meteorically through the Ottoman hierarchy without commanding major battles or administering provinces. He remains constantly at Mehmed's side. He is given apartments within the palace complex normally reserved for the Sultan's wives, and when Mehmed needs a commander he can trust absolutely to invade Wallachia, he chooses Radu. Not because Radu is the best general, because Radu is the most loyal, because Radu has burned every bridge back to his homeland, because Radu has nothing left except Mehmed's favor. Vlad, meanwhile, escapes captivity in 1448. His father and older brother have been murdered by Wallachian boyars, nobles who see the Dracula'S family as Turkish puppets. Vlad is 17 years old, consumed with rage, and he understands something crucial. The Ottoman Empire kept him in a gilded cage for 12 years. Now he will make them regret it. He fights his way to the Wallachian throne in 1456, defeating multiple rivals, executing the boyars who killed his family, and establishing himself as the most terrifying ruler in the Balkans. His signature punishment becomes impalement, victims hoisted on sharpened stakes and left to die slowly, sometimes taking days. He impales 20,000 captured Ottoman soldiers and arranges them in a forest of the dead outside Targovist. The Sultan's envoys refuse to remove their turbans in his presence. Vlad has their turbans nailed to their skulls. This is the brother Radu must destroy. The date is April 4, 1462. Sultan Mehmed II assembles the largest invasion force Wallachia has ever faced, 120,000 soldiers, 600 cannons, a supply train stretching 15 miles. The objective is simple: remove Vlad the Impaler from power and replace him with a ruler who understands loyalty. Replace him with his brother. Radu leads the vanguard. He rides at the front of 30,000 cavalry, wearing Ottoman armor, flying Turkish banners, speaking to his men in flawless Turkish and Arabic. Behind him march soldiers who have never seen Wallachia, who know nothing of Romanian culture, who view this as just another conquest. But Radu knows. He knows every village, every mountain pass, every boyar family. He is not invading a foreign country. He is coming home as the enemy. The psychological warfare begins before the armies even meet. Vlad sends messengers to the Ottoman camp, not to negotiate, but to mock. The messages are addressed to Radu personally. They remind him of their childhood. They ask if he still remembers Romanian. They question whether he still qualifies as human, or if he has become something else entirely, something that sleeps in the Sultan's bed and betrays its own blood for gold and favor. Radu burns the messages unread, but his hands shake as he does it. The invasion begins with a catastrophe. On the night of June 17, 1462, Vlad launches his legendary night attack on the Ottoman camp. He leads a force of fewer than 10,000 men in a midnight raid designed to kill the Sultan himself. They infiltrate the massive Ottoman encampment, setting fire to tents, slaughtering sleeping soldiers, creating absolute chaos. Vlad's men are screaming in Turkish, giving false orders, turning the Ottoman army against itself in the darkness. Radu is the one who saves Mehmed's life. He recognizes his brother's tactics. He rallies the Sultan's personal guard and forms a defensive perimeter around Mehmed's tent. When Vlad's raiders break through, Radu fights them hand to hand, killing 2 men with his own sword. The attack is repelled. Mehmed survives. But 15,000 Ottoman soldiers are dead by morning, and Vlad has vanished back into the forest like a ghost. This is the moment Mehmed makes his decision. He will not stay in Wallachia. The campaign is too costly, too dangerous, and Vlad has proven impossible to pin down. But the invasion cannot end in failure, so Mehmed does something cunning. He leaves Radu behind with 40,000 men and a mandate. You are now Prince of Wallachia. Convince your countrymen to accept you, or burn the country to ashes trying. Radu is now trapped in the nightmare he helped create. He is nominally a prince, but he rules nothing. Vlad controls the countryside. The boyars are terrified to openly support either side. The peasants view Radu as a Turkish puppet at best, a traitor and a sodomite at worst. His own Ottoman soldiers don't fully trust him because he is Romanian. The Romanians won't trust him because he is Ottoman. He is a man without a country, fighting a brother who has become a folk legend. The war turns into a brutal stalemate. Vlad won't meet Radu in open battle. Instead, he uses scorched earth tactics. He burns villages before the Ottoman army can reach them. He poisons wells. He leaves impaled bodies along every road as psychological warfare. Radu's supply lines are constantly harassed. His soldiers are terrified to venture into the forests. Every night, men disappear from the camp. Some are found impaled the next morning. Some are never found at all. Radu begins targeting the boyar families. He offers them a deal. Abandon Vlad and support me, and you keep your lands and titles. Remain loyal to my brother, and I will burn your estates and impale your children. It is not a negotiation. It is a hostage situation. The boyars are paralyzed. They hate Vlad because he has executed so many of their class, but they also fear him because he is unpredictable and absolutely ruthless. Radu offers stability, Ottoman backing, and a guarantee of their traditional privileges. He is the safer choice, the weaker choice. The choice that won't get them impaled. One by one, they defect. By November 1462, the tide has turned. Radu controls most of the major cities. He has the support of enough boyar families to claim legitimacy. Vlad is isolated in the mountains with a shrinking force of loyalists. The Hungarian king, Matthias Corvinus, who had promised military support to Vlad, arrests him instead on fabricated charges. Vlad is imprisoned in Hungary. Radu is crowned Prince of Wallachia, but the victory is hollow. Radu sits on a throne built by Ottoman soldiers and boyar cowardice. The people never accept him. They whisper that he is the Sultan's catamite, that he sold his soul and his body for power, that he is a parody of a prince. Chroniclers describe him riding through Targovist in Turkish robes, surrounded by janissaries, speaking Turkish to his own Romanian subjects. He has conquered his homeland and lost it simultaneously. The propaganda war defines both brothers' legacies. Vlad becomes Dracula, the folk hero who defied the Ottomans, the monster who impaled his enemies, the vampire legend that will outlive the historical truth. Radu becomes the anti-Dracula, the beautiful traitor, the Sultan's favorite, the brother who chose power over blood. Romanian chroniclers write him out of history or mention him only as a cautionary tale. Ottoman sources praise his loyalty, but provide no details about his relationship with Mehmed. He exists in the gaps, in the whispered allegations, in the silences between official records. If you're finding this forgotten history as haunting as I am, a like really helps share these buried stories with more people. Because Radu's story reveals something we rarely discuss, how empires don't just conquer land, they conquer identities, and sometimes the most devastating weapon they can deploy is a man forced to destroy his own origins. Radu rules Wallachia for 12 years, from 1462 to 1473, with a brief interruption. But he never truly rules. He is always dependent on Ottoman support. Every decision must be approved by the Sultan. When the boyars rebel, he needs Turkish troops to crush them. When Vlad is eventually released from Hungarian captivity in 1476 and briefly retakes the throne, Radu must watch from the Ottoman border, powerless to act. Vlad is killed in battle just months later, possibly assassinated by boyars who feared his return to brutality. Radu never gets his final confrontation with his brother. Vlad dies fighting an ambush, his head cut off and sent to Mehmed as proof. When Radu hears the news, witnesses say he shows no emotion. He had already mourned his brother years ago, when they stood on opposite banks of the Danube, and acknowledged that whatever had once connected them was dead. But something breaks inside Radu after Vlad's death. He becomes withdrawn. He stops attending Ottoman court functions. In 1473, he is deposed by yet another rival claimant to the Wallachian throne, Basarab Leota, backed by a different faction of boyars. Radu flees to Ottoman territory. He is 42 years old, stateless again, trapped in the same empire that had held him captive as a child. He dies in 1475, possibly from syphilis, possibly from poisoning. The records are vague. He is buried in a monastery near Bucharest, a concession to the Christian faith he had abandoned decades earlier. No grand tomb, no elaborate epitaph, just a forgotten grave for a forgotten prince. Mehmed II, who conquered Constantinople and built an empire that would last 4 centuries, never mentions Radu in his later writings. Whatever they were to each other, it ended in silence. Here is the question history cannot answer. Was Radu a traitor who sold out his homeland for personal ambition and sexual favor? Or was he a survivor who made impossible choices in an impossible situation? Consider the context. Radu was taken captive at age 4. He spent his formative years in an empire that gave him two options: convert and serve, or resist and die. Vlad chose resistance and became a monster. Radu chose survival and became a weapon. Neither choice was free. Both were made by children trapped in an empire's machinery. The allegations about his relationship with Mehmed come almost entirely from hostile sources: Byzantine chroniclers who hated the Ottomans, Romanian sources who needed to justify why the boyars abandoned Vlad. Ottoman sources, which would have the most accurate information, provide no details. The truth is we don't know. We know Radu was close to Mehmed. We know he converted to Islam. We know he led armies against his brother. Whether those choices came from love, from calculation, from survival instinct, or from genuine belief in the Ottoman cause, we cannot say with certainty. What we can say is this: Radu understood something that Vlad never accepted. Power is not about who is right. It is about who is willing to adapt. Vlad remained rigid, brutal, uncompromising, and he died abandoned and betrayed. Radu bent, transformed, reinvented himself repeatedly, and he died forgotten and alone. Both brothers were destroyed by the same empire, just in different ways. The legacy is paradoxical. Today, Vlad is a global icon. Bram Stoker's Dracula made him immortal. Tourists visit his castle. His name evokes terror and fascination. Radu is a footnote, mentioned briefly in histories of his brother, described in the most unflattering possible terms, or erased entirely. Modern Romanian nationalism has no use for a prince who sided with the Ottomans. Modern Turkish nationalism has no use for a converted Christian whose loyalty was always questionable. But perhaps Radu's invisibility is its own kind of victory. He was the brother who survived longest. He played the most dangerous game imaginable, being a Romanian prince, an Ottoman general, a Muslim convert, and possibly the lover of the most powerful sultan in the world, and he stayed alive through it all. In a world where his brother's signature move was impaling people and his sultan's favorite pastime was conquest, Radu used charm, intelligence, and adaptability as his weapons, and for a while they worked. There is a small monument to Radu in Bucharest, erected in the 1990s by historians who wanted to acknowledge his existence. It describes him simply as Prince of Wallachia, brother of Vlad the Impaler. No judgment, no details. Just an acknowledgement that he existed, that he mattered, that his story is part of the tangled, tragic history of a region crushed between empires. I think about those two boys dragged from their beds in 1436. I think about what they might have been if they had been allowed to grow up in peace, if they had been princes of a stable country instead of hostages of a ruthless empire. Would they have been friends? Would they have ruled together? Would Vlad have found a different outlet for his rage? Would Radu have discovered loyalty to something other than survival? We will never know. The empire made them into weapons and then destroyed them both. One became a legend, one became a ghost. Both were victims long before they became villains. If you found Radu's forgotten story as complex and tragic as I did, please give this video a like. It really helps the algorithm share this hidden history with more people who need to hear it. And if you want to dive deeper into the dark, forgotten corners of the past, make sure you're subscribed, because there are dozens more stories like this waiting to be uncovered. I have a question for you to answer in the comments. If you had been in Radu's position, taken as a child hostage by the empire that was destroying your homeland, would you have chosen resistance like Vlad or adaptation like Radu? Could you have led armies against your own brother if it meant survival? I read every comment, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this impossible moral choice. Next time, we're exploring another figure history tried to erase, the woman who commanded armies, ruled an empire, and was written out of the chronicles simply because she was too powerful to be believed. You won't want to miss it. Radu the Handsome died alone and forgotten. But his story endures as a reminder that history is written by the victors, and sometimes the most tragic figures are the ones who chose survival over glory, adaptation over resistance, and ended up losing both. In the shadow of Dracula's legend, Radu remains the brother who was just as dangerous, just as broken, and infinitely more human.